Yes, so I'm going to call on Mr. Ewere. Mr. Ewere is a very, very intelligent, outspoken, and also a very practical person. These are one of the most practical people I've ever met in my life. He's also my mentor. I'm going to be calling him up to give us a talk and on compute services, the new services for AWS reInvent, new services that we announced in terms of compute. Um, that's what Mr. Ewere would be talking about. So this is reInvent recap event. So reInvent is majorly is one of the biggest events we hold as AWS in Las Vegas every December, I think November of the year. And we usually will post a recap after that to freshen our minds and enlighten people on these services and all the things that we announced and how we can actually take advantage of it. So Mr. Ewere is already here. Welcome, Mr. I'm going to stop sharing. Welcome, Mr. Ewere. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Keme, for that introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining the session. This is our recap for 2023 reInvent, and I will be focusing and talking about compute services. So these are just a few of the services which I personally just handpicked. A lot of services were released in this new reInvent, from upgrade of services to new services, new improvements to the existing services. So I just handpicked a couple of them, and these are the ones I will be talking about. So the first one is the Graviton processor. So the Graviton processor has been around for quite a while, and it's AWS proprietary ARM-based processors. So ARM-based processors are processors that are more energy efficient and they consume less power. ARM processors are actually the ones that are running your phone. So they tend to be more energy efficient, and they also are very they also work efficiently. So apart from being energy efficient, they also work efficiently, and their performance is very good. So this is like the fourth reboot of that from AWS. I think one is released almost every year, and as new Graviton processors are being released, the cost continues to drop. So this chip promises to deliver high efficiency with smaller carbon footprint. It makes running generative AI faster and less expensive. So apart from just talking about it theoretically, how do you know a Graviton processor? So when you are trying to launch an EC2 instance, all you need to do is look for the instances that have the G in front of them. So if you if you go to your instances, okay, you notice that you have your T2 small, your T2 generation, your T3 generation, your T4 generation, okay? Now, just a little tip here is that whenever you see T2, T3, those numbers you see in front of them are the generations. And the higher the generations, the more advanced they are. So for example, the T2 generations are the older generations. The T3 are the newer ones, while the T4 are also one of the latest ones. So if you check the T4 generation instances, you can see they have something like a T4G in front of them. That G in front of it means it's a Graviton processor. Okay, it's powered by the Graviton processors. The first thing you get about the Graviton processor is that it is cheaper to run. This is something you can do in your calculator.aws to see what I'm trying to talk about. Try and compare the price of a T3, say large, or a T4 large, T4G large. You're going to see that there's significant cost savings when you use a Graviton-based processors. And because it's around the compute area, you can take the same knowledge and extend it to the database section. So if you're launching an RDS instance, you can go for a T4G, okay, instance. You definitely will get better cost savings than using the traditional T4 instances or T3 instances. Sorry, there's not like a T4, usually a T4G. Now, also take note that it is an ARM-based processor. So certain workloads, when you want to run them, you need to take note of that. Okay, that's something I want us to be very aware of. So when you're running certain workloads on ARM-based processors, mostly Docker container related stuff, you might need to take note of that OS architecture. So apart from the normal ones we know are the AMD based, which are the x86, okay? But this new set of processors are quite different from that. So you might need to make some modifications to your Docker file to accommodate for that difference and build according to that OS architecture, okay? And then the next is the Trainium 2 chip which will speed up ML workloads and AI applications at a lower cost. We're talking about cost savings here, cheaper processors and better performance. So the Trainium is just the brother to the Graviton. Okay, the Trainium is strictly focused on ML workloads, okay, and your AI workloads. So this is the second reboot of the Trainium processor. And just like the name is designed, it's Trainium. I'm sure they got that name from train, okay? It's a processor that is designed for training for ML workloads, deploying of ML workloads, and also serving of ML workloads, and even tuning your ML workloads. So what this means is whenever you're launching your EC2 instance or a SageMaker instance, you need to take note of the architecture of the operating system or the instance you are trying to launch so you can get better performance, cost savings, and eventually get higher value for your money and make your engineers to be more productive. I mean, as a DevOps and infrastructure engineer, one of the things one of your goals is to make your engineers to be more effective by the tools you provide for them and by the services you give to them. Okay, so Graviton Trainium processors, very important. You can check them out. They're already on your console and you can launch your instances on them. The next I'm going to talk about is Express One Zone. So this is not really compute, but it's something that caught my attention and I had to bring it up here. So we all know and love S3 so much because it's one of the largest and most durable object storage engine in the world right now. S3 has been amazing for the many years. But there's something very unique about edge computing, which I spoke about a couple of months ago. And it's like it's coming to fusion. So this is like an edge deployment for S3. So for the first time, AWS allowing customers to choose the specific availability zone for their storage. Before now, what happens is you want to launch a bucket, okay? You want to create a bucket. You create a bucket, you choose the region you want to create that bucket in. And the way S3 behaves naturally is it replicates your object across the availability zones within that particular region. So for example, let's say we choose AF South 1, which is the South African region, okay? The South African region has about, I think, 2 availability zones or 3. I'm not really sure, 2 or 3. They will make a copy of whatever object you drop in that bucket into 3 copies for high availability. Now, what Express One Zone is saying is, you know what? We are not forcing you anymore, okay? Choose the AZ or zone. Now, they are even reducing it down to zone, not just availability zones, okay? They are reducing it down to zone. Choose the zone you want to deploy your bucket and your objects. Now, why would somebody want to choose where they want to deploy their or upload their objects files to in S3? So the purpose is usually for latency. Okay, now you are in Lagos, Nigeria, and you deploy an application, and your application uses images. Okay, you decide to say, okay, you know what? Instead of storing my images in the EC2 instance, I decide to drop them over in an S3 bucket somewhere. Now you check it. That bucket is most likely going to be created in one of the AWS availability zones. The time it's going to take for a user to load those images, you might not significantly understand the time because they might be in milliseconds. But the truth is, when you start having thousands of users on your application, it might start impacting the performance, the speed, and the user experience of your application. Now, what OneZone is saying is, since we are giving you the flexibility to choose the zone you want to deploy on, or the region, sorry, the zone specifically, not region, you can choose a zone that is closest to you, closest to your users. What that means is that it improves and drops the latency of your application. So instead of traveling 400 milliseconds from Nigeria to Ireland, London, or London to pull data back to Nigeria, you could actually deploy it in a zone within Nigeria, and that 400, 500 milliseconds can be reduced to 100 or even 50 milliseconds. Now that drastically improves the experience of your users. Okay, so Express Zone is also a tier in S3. So S3, if you understand how S3 works a lot, S3 has different tiers. You have the standard tier, you have the intelligent tiering, you have the one zone IA and different tiers. So Express Zone is a tier. And secondly, the way you create an Express Zone is pretty much different from the way you create the original bucket. So if you look at the screenshot I have by the side, you can see that it's saying the directive new is talking about creating an express, and it says recommended for low latency cases. These buckets use only the Express One Zone storage class, okay, which provides faster processing of data within a single availability zone. So you don't really get high availability with an express one zone. That's one of the disadvantages, unfortunately. But you get that speed. Also, it's also very valuable when you're performing data engineering activities. You're performing some kind of data cleaning, ETL process, and you need that process to be fast. You created, say, a managed workflow service. Say you are using one of the AWS data engineering services, Glue, let's say Amazon Glue, to perform some ETL on data. And one of the things you need is for that job or that workflow to run fast enough to clean your data and redump to the bucket. What you might eventually experience is if you use the original setup, it becomes a bit slower. Okay. But what usually happens is when you use a one zone, it actually becomes faster. Okay, it becomes faster. So that is one of the major values that Express One Zone delivers. And then for the last thing, which is something I got pretty excited about, is the EKS pod identity. So the EKS pod identity is a new feature. Okay, it's a new feature that was added to EKS. That's the container orchestration service from AWS. Okay, the Kubernetes orchestration service. And EKS pod identity is kind of the brother or a replacement to IRSA. Okay, IRSA is IAM for service accounts. So originally, if you want to authorize pods within your Kubernetes cluster, you need to create what we call a service account within the cluster, and you need to create an IAM role within AWS, and then you tie them together using an OpenID connect. Okay, so you need to have the OpenID configuration, and then you need to have your role, and then you need to have your service account and tie them up together. Now, the EKS pod identity is saying you don't need that kind of architecture anymore. All you need to do is to deploy an agent into the cluster. That agent, you configure your role and configure the agent with that role. So what that agent automatically does is it can allocate permissions to a specific pod for you as you want it to be granularly configured. So it doesn't take away the roles and the policies, but what it takes away is the OIDC integration, which sometimes I mean can be very unnecessary why it was there initially. But I think AWS is trying to also reduce the surface area you need in terms of configuring authorization and authentication for the pods in your cluster. So another thing about EKS pod identity is that it is an agent-based service. What do I mean by that? You need to deploy the EKS pod identity controller within your cluster and then configure your role with the EKS pod identity, and then deploy in your cluster. So what happens is when you're trying to run any workload, you need to attach some extra configurations to your pod for the EKS pod identity to recognize that pod and assign authorization to it. So another advantage of it is it does just-in-time credential release. So unlike the existing IRSA configuration, it's a one-time configuration and everything works. But EKS pod identity releases on request, okay, which also increases the level of security of your pods. So your pod don't just have access anytime they want. It is based on request. That's where the pod identity controller exists within the cluster to manage that life cycle. So these are the three, for me, amazing things that I found within the reInvent conference last year. And thank you very much. Over to you, Kevin.
Wow. That was great. That looks good. All right, guys. So we will be going to the questions and answers section for Mr. Ewere. Mr. Ewere has done a very, very nice job explaining most of the things that he has found out, most of the new technologies and new tools you can implement from AWS reInvent. So we can go into questions and answers. Mr. Ewere, are you ready for questions and answers?
Sure. I'm ready.
Okay, so after that, we will be going to a short quiz session where people would get AWS credits. So just hope you're listening. Hope you've listened to everything Mr. Ewere said, because that's your ticket to winning credits. Any questions, please let us know. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Wow, so it means we have experts here. You already know these things Mr. Ewere is saying. Questions, good. Manuel Ibok, go ahead.
Sorry, I actually came late. I didn't see the meeting link on time. So I saw EKS there, which I know that's Elastic Kubernetes Service. But I just came in not too long. But I wish he can just recap, or he can just recap for me like what you guys are talking about, because
Okay, Mr. Ewere, do you want to just do a quick recap in like less than 2 minutes? Is that possible? Uh,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get the last thing you said.
Said Mr. Emmanuel Ibok's question is he came in late and he was like, if we can do a quick crash course or something, just something in like 1 minute, highlighting most of the things we've talked about.
Okay, I talked about 3 services. I talked about 3 releases. I mean, 3 releases, not 3 services. Number 1 is the new Graviton processor and the Trainium processor, which are for improvements on normal EC2 and ML workloads, AI ML workloads for the Trainium. And then I talked about the S3 Express 1 zone, which is designed for low latency object storage and record of authorizing and authenticating pods to give them access to S3 and other AWS services. So those are the 3 things I talked about. All good?
Okay. Emmanuel, I hope that answers your question. You can basically just go online and do some more research on that. Or we're going to record this, or we're recording this. It's going to be live in a few days after today, and you can go back and watch everything. Any more questions? We need questions. You can't be this. You can't just know everything. Questions, please. Okay, then Richard. Yes, thank you. Richard, please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. So I was just a bit confused, not really confused though, but I don't know if we could touch. I know he made a brief description of those 3 new release, the Graviton, the Express one. But my concern was really on the AKS pod identity. I don't know if we could lay emphasis on it, on the open identification of the thing. It's just I'm new to the Kubernetes and the rest, so I didn't really grab much. But for the bucket and the T4G Graviton processor, it's something I could relate to. I don't know if it would say more on it in the brief recap on the pod. Did you get me?
Okay, so what part exactly do you need recap for? Hello?
I'm with you. The parts where you mentioned the agent's creation and the configuration of the roles in sync.
Okay. So for you to understand EKS pod identity very well, you need to understand IRSA. Okay. IRSA is the previous method of authorizing pods to gain access to AWS services. Now, there's actually the normal way people give access to services in AWS is, for example, you need an app to communicate to an S3 bucket, upload an object to S3, or you need an app to be able to trigger, say, a step function workflow, or you need an app to be able to use any other service in AWS, basically. What people do is they inject the access key and secret key into their code. And that's actually a bad practice. because your credentials should never be in your code. Okay. Now, the first thing AWS did was to launch IRSA, okay, which is IAM rules for service accounts. That's the meaning of IRSA, IAM rules for service accounts. That's what used to exist. And what this architecture means is every cluster you create comes with what we call an OpenID Connect configuration. That OpenID Connect configuration is open standard for interconnecting services, just like what we have, what we call OAuth authorization open standard. We also have the SAML integration open standard. So OIDC is an open standard for connecting disparate services. What I mean by that, if two services are different things, you can create an open standard of how they communicate and share information for credentials, authorization, and security purposes. So IRSA was what was existing all along, and it was working fine. But the part that was very weird about IRSA was the OIDC part, which can be a bit tricky when you configure, and it didn't look very important. So I guess the AWS team tried to think of something more native to AWS, and instead of using an OpenID Connect integration, and that's what led to EKS pod identity. So if you know the way Secrets Manager works in AWS and the way the Secrets Manager controller works in an EKS cluster, is that you deploy the Secrets Manager controller, and then you configure it in such a way that it works with the service account to pull credentials from the Secrets Manager and inject into your environment variables in your Kubernetes cluster. That's the same way the EKS pod identity works. Now, the previous way it used to work with IRSA is you take that role ARON and create a service account within the cluster. Okay, now because that cluster has the OIDC integration, and you also have to attach the OIDC to the role. Okay, and then when you create a service account within your pod configuration, you are going to add that service account. What happens is whenever that application is trying to authorize, whenever the application wants to authorize to connect to AWS, it's going to go through that service account, which has the IAM role, which will authenticate through the OIDC before it gets to AWS. So you can see the chain of command before it even tries to upload to an S3 bucket. Okay, so it needed to do about 4 different steps before it can get the proper authorization. And don't forget, your role also requires a policy. You need to attach a policy to your role. So the policy is actually the right permissions. So if you need just read-only access to S3 buckets, write-only access to DynamoDB and stuff like that, if you need to configure those things, your policy defines that, which is attached to your role. But in the EKS pod identity world, it's pretty different. Number one, the OIDC is yanked off the way. That's the first thing. Number two, you need to deploy an agent. So just the way your secret manager works, it depends on how you configure the secret manager object. It continues to pull new credentials from your secret manager store. You could say every minute, pull a credential. You could say every hour, pull a credential, new credentials. Same way EKS pod identity works. So when you deploy your EKS pod identity in your cluster, the fact that we have alienated OIDC, that pod identity communicates with AWS directly via a role. Okay, so what you do in your pod is you reference that EKS pod identity. So the journey becomes shorter from your pod to the pod identity agent to AWS directly. So it removes the OIDC integration that you need. And secondly, it's a pooling technology, which means every time it's trying to make sure that you have the right credentials. It's making sure you have the right credentials. It continues to pull to validate that you have the right credentials and assign it. So that's what I mean by just-in-time credentials assignment. Okay, and we know that IAM roles is also a just-in-time credential system. Okay, IAM roles still generate access keys and secret key, but the difference between IAM roles and just static keys is that IAM role does it on the fly, and it is time bound. That's the difference between an IAM role and creating a user and giving access key and secret key. Okay, they are long-term keys, but IAM roles generate just in time and they expire. So same concept is being used in EKS pod identity. It will pull the credentials and assign. It will pull the credentials and assign when you need it. Okay, so it takes away the OIDC aspect. Okay, takes away the OIDC aspect of that configuration and goes straight from your pod to your pod identity agent or controller straight to AWS. I hope that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, thank you.
That's how you know that this guy knows his onions. All these things that's from his head, saying everything because he has used it. Yeah. So, any other questions? I see what's happening in the chat. Yeah. Any other questions? We're meant to go straight into the game section, and there's some issue there in the sense that I actually thought Keynote is free. Keynote used to be free for like as much users as you want, but right now I just found out that you can only have 3 users. So it won't be fair if I do Keynote and only 3 people can participate. So we need to find a new way to ask these questions and get people to answer. Mr. Akim, how should we go about this? Should we just should I
Yeah,
just read it out?
so we can just post it in the chat too. And the fastest fingers are always, will be the lucky winner. So that's what we usually do.
Okay.
So whoever answered the question first, win the prize.
Okay. We'll do that now. The first question. I know the issue with this technique is that people would want to, go straight to Google and, and just get the answers from there. But anyways,
Yeah, that's why we do the fastest thing.
Okay.
So whoever come up with the answer quick, will win the prize. So we just monitor the chat room.
Okay, so we'll do that for this. While Mr. David comes up, I'll quickly look for another alternative for the next section. Yes, so the first question is coming in now, and I'll put in the options, which are the answers there. You just have to pick one. Give me a minute. So we'll have just 3 questions here. Just 3 questions for the time. Good. So the first question is there now. The first question is, what is special about EKS pod identity? Promise says A. Yo, Promise is the first. The answer is actually A. The answer is A. Please don't send me direct messages. Just send it to the chat so everyone can see. So Mr. Promise wins that. I'm gonna get the second question. Give me a minute. You have to be manual now. That second question is, I just have to type these things in. That's why it takes some time. I mean, copying and pasting everything. That's the question 2. We'll get the answers, the options real quick. Yeah, so we have that. Question 2. Where I wrote
Okay.
before people start picking questions. I don't think, yes. How is S3 Express Zone different from intelligent tethering class? So, okay. Someone said C, someone said C, someone said A, A. The answer actually is C. So the answer is C, which is S3 Express Zone is tied to a single zone and not regional. So who got that
Charles.
first?
So Charles get it
Charles,
first.
yeah.
Okay.
So Charles got it first. And I think we'll just stop there because we have three more vouchers. So we have to go to the next session and probably we'll have a proper game setting by then. Mr. Akim, should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Let's continue.
So we would be introducing our next speaker, David Umoh. Mr. David Umoh is someone who is going to be my friend very soon. I don't know him personally, but when I went online to check on this guy, he is actually very solid with a track record in this industry. So Mr. David Umoh works with AWS as a senior solutions architect. Is a professional in the cloud computing industry. Is a CTO for several companies before he got to AWS. His bio is just too long and very impressive, but I'm going to just say a bit about it. He's an impactful technical leader with 13 plus years of experience contributing to. I just realized my video wasn't up. Yeah. Contributing to developing and leading teams to deliver quality software products across digital commerce, payments, supply chain, and educational technology sector. He has a strong technical background across all aspects of the software development lifecycle, from requirements engineering to DevOps to SRE, everything. He has experience collaborating with products and business stakeholders to achieve company objectives. Please, let's give a virtual round of applause to Mr. David Umoh as he comes on stage. It's a virtual round of applause. Welcome, Mr. David. Welcome.
Thank you. So let me know when you can see my video and my screen.
We can see it. We can see you loud and clear.
Okay, and you can see my screen as well, right?
Yes, Mr. David.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. And even though I have been a member of this community, this is my first time of joining you for a live meeting. Okay, so this is still reInvent recap. And in this session, we will take a look at reInvent announcements that focus on enhancing your productivity as a developer or a DevOps engineer. So I'd just like to have an idea of who I have in the room, who I'm speaking to. So if you are DevOps, can you signify by raise of hands or typing in the chat DevOps? So if you are developer, front end, back end, full stack, please kindly just type in the chat. Yeah, so know how to adjust my presentation accordingly, even though that might be too late. Yes, but I will know the areas to emphasize or not. Okay, newbie DevOps, any developer like backend, okay? Okay, I've seen one full stack. Okay, so architect, backend. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, great. So I'm speaking to the right audience. So, like Ewere said, so much was introduced during the last reInvent in 2023. And so if we were to give a recap of the entire stuff, this would probably take us hours and hours. So I am choosing to focus on this particular topic, firstly, because of my audience, and then secondly, because of how dear this is to my heart. So the question is, why is this topic important? And I'd like to begin with a quote. Okay, so the quote you see on my screen here is actually from the legendary Andy Grove, a former CEO and chairman of Intel. So he's one of the people whose books I read very well. And so he says that the responsibility of a production unit, which can be a product team, is to build and deliver products in response to demands of the customers at a scheduled delivery time, at an acceptable quality level, and at the lowest possible cost. So 4 things, right? So firstly, there is the output, which you build and deliver, but it needs to be done on schedule. So speed is important, and then it needs to meet the required quality level and at the cost that makes sense for the business. Now, the more you as an individual or as a team is able to do this, the more productive you are. And I'm aware that most of us here, in terms of the roles that we play, whether it's DevOps, whether it's pure software engineering, you are doing it within a business context. And so the business values people who are productive or who contribute to the productivity of the team. So this is an important subject. So my question to you now is that how do you increase productivity? So who wants to try? You can type in the chat. You can mention one way where you increase productivity or where you think that you can increase your productivity. Quickly. Oh, I want to make this. Okay. This is how you know that you're talking to engineers. So you're reducing latency. So productivity from the so you are saying productivity from the perspective of, let's say, the application or the infrastructure, good. But I'm referring to productivity as an individual. Okay, development strategy, save developer hours, proper time management, good. One more, increasing availability. We are all engineers in this place. Nice. Okay. So for individuals to increase their productivity, there are 2 ways, right? One, at a high level, is you want to be able to increase your work rate, right? So this is, you want to be able to churn out more work. So work harder, work faster, but we are aware that there is a limit to this, right? And we know what the likely outcome is if you hit that limit, and that's burnout. So that's not what we want. So by all means, be fast, but realize that there is a limit and what the consequences are. Now, my preferred approach to increasing productivity is to increase your leverage. And because I'm talking to technical people here, right? So you can think about leverage as mechanical advantage, where you are looking at the ratio of your output to the ratio of your inputs. And if you really think about it, that's what technology helps us do, right? So all the way from the early days, every so often, the bar is being raised, like we've seen in the last few years. That's from a productivity standpoint. And that brings me to AI, right? And so just to provide like a bit of context, within AWS, there is a team referred to as the next generation developer experience. So what that team does is to look at ways to take advantage of AI to improve or reinvent developer productivity. Now, I am aware that we've had several talks, about AI, and I'm not sure if you were coming here expecting to hear someone talk about AI again, right? But the truth is that I was one of the people who thought that this was a lot of hype, right? Until I tried out some of the available tools and I realized that, oh no, because I understand what leverage is, these tools are game changers where the order of magnitude in productivity is the kind of things that we are seeing, right? So my point is that if you are here, right, and you haven't tried out any AI tool as part of your work, I am hoping that by the time we are done, right, you will take a look at some of the tools that I'll be recommending here, and then maybe some of the other tools that are available. Now, the second thing on this slide I want to talk about is that sometimes you find developers, particularly those who are starting out their career, getting concerned if, okay, will AI replace me, right? Now, the truth is that my opinion is that there might be some replacements, but this will be a matter of fact as those who leverage the new tools to become a lot more productive, taking the place of people who do not, right? And so some of the things that we are able to see with some of the next generation developer tools that we have is that before now, creating modern applications require teams of developers writing thousands of lines of code over the course of weeks or months, right? Or building modern applications required expertise across the full tech stack. So we're building modern apps required expertise. That's building every modern app, right? Now, the other thing that we've seen is that before now, creating complex application architectures required hours of research, selecting the right tools, and spending time connecting the back end and the front end. And then improving and maintaining applications meant spending arduous amount of time manually fixing bugs, updating code, and redeploying new versions. Now, AI, mostly generative AI, is changing these things, making it possible to eliminate so many of the mundane, time-consuming tasks that developers face so they can focus on creative problem solving. So this is definitely a new era, right? And part of our commitment at AWS is to let you know that we understand what the immense potentials are of these tools to transform the developer experience. However, other tools are often trained on low quality error-filled source material, and that results in poor guidance or guidance that does not provide proper attribution. In some other cases, you will find that these tools may not integrate with your AWS tool. So what we are doing at AWS is that we are prioritizing responsible use of AI so you can build confidently with tools that are tightly integrated with your workflow. And what you get out of this is high quality guidance. So we want you to be able to build without limits. So to start with, we launched Amazon Code Whisperer in general availability. This was early in 2023. And basically what this tool helps you do is to build applications faster and more securely by generating code suggestions and recommendations in near real time. So I would like to find out how many of you here have tried out Amazon Code Whisperer. You can drop in the chat. Anyone? Okay, one person has, two have. Okay, okay, four. Okay, beautiful. How many have tried out Copilot without trying out Code Whisperer? That's GitHub Copilot. Okay, quite interesting. Okay, so I'll just, okay, someone says I use Copilot daily. Interesting. I would like to know what you think of it from a productivity standpoint, but let's go on. So just to run through this quickly for the benefit of those who might not have used it or might not even know about it, is that Code Whisperer is an AI coding assistant, and it's trained on billions of lines of code, enabling it to provide developers with relevant and accurate code recommendations for a wide variety of use cases. Now, because it is trained on high quality AWS examples, we are confident that Code Whisperer is an extremely accurate and fast way to generate code for interacting with AWS services, whether it's EC2, S3, Lambda, and so on and so forth. And recently, we engaged with MongoDB to provide enhanced code suggestions for building applications with MongoDB using curated training data for MongoDB use cases. So you can get enhanced code suggestions that reflect best practices and accelerate your MongoDB development as well. Now, we take privacy and responsibility very, very seriously. So what Code Whisperer does is that if it sees that you are using code or there are suggestions that are based on open source training data, it is able to flag it so that you can give the right attribution. And then recently, we announced like the built-in functionality for security scanning for your ID. So you can run the security scanner to look for vulnerabilities. And we just released a generative AI powered capability to give you code recommendations that safely and quickly remediate the issues that you find as a result of the security scanning. So what this does is that it enables you quickly update your code. And so we want as many developers as possible to get these benefits. And that's why the Code Whisperer suggestions are free for all individual users. But today, when you write code for your organization, right, you need to make sure that the code complies with all your internal specifications, like your internal SDKs, your APIs, your libraries, your packages, and even your classes, right? And until recently, inline coding tools were limited to suggesting code from public data. They weren't aware of your company's internal code, right? So if you are new to working with an internal code base, this often means you need to spend hours to talking to experienced developers and trying, to learn best practices, or even digging through the code by yourself, because more often than not, documentation is sparse or does not exist. And even when you are even familiar with the internal resources and best practices, you still have to spend time actually writing and reviewing lots of code that might not really add a lot of value, right? To make sure that it follows your company's best practices. And that's why, as part of the announcements at 2023 reInvent, we launched in preview a new Code Whisperer customization capability, right? So what this is that it can get much more tailored suggestions that include your internal SDKs, your APIs, your libraries, your packages, and your classes, right? So this helps developers go faster and then improves your code quality. And we have security baked in where the administrators can control who can access the customizations. And it's important for you to know that the customizations are isolated within your account. So AWS never uses your content from Code Whisperer to train the underlying models. So this is like a quick example, right? So this is from a GitHub repository for a serverless e-commerce application. And then, yep. So within Code Whisperer, there is a customization. And then because of this customization, it allows suggestions to be tailored to the code base. Now, Code Whisperer is ready to provide you insights based on the company's specific architecture and best practices. So here, say add coupons field to schema if it doesn't already exist, and then it is able to give you suggestions based on these companies' best practices or even like the existing libraries that they already have, right? So this is an example of defining a constant. And then the next thing here is that you're asking it to help add a function to validate coupons. Yeah, and then it provides the suggestions right within the IDE that is consistent with the libraries that this company has. Yeah. So this is just an example of what is possible when you get to customize this with the libraries that you have within your organization and then doing it in a way that is safe and secure as well. Okay, so this is an example where there was a company that we worked with called Persistent, which is a global digital engineering and expertise modernization company. So we worked with them to conduct a study on how Code Whisperer customizations impact productivity. And what they found was that their folks completed their task 28% faster than, so those that used the customizations completed their task 28% faster than those that did not. Yeah, so this is an example of how these next generation developer tools can improve upon your productivity. Now, this is not limited to the IDE, right? So even there is the command line functionality, because up until recently, we haven't really seen much updates to the capabilities of command line, right? So part of what we announced at reInvent is that there is the command line functionality for Code Whisperer that is available. So which solves the challenges around you trying to memorize most of the commands that you use, or even, leaving your terminal to go online to actually search, right? And so this is integrated into your existing workflow, and there's a lot that you can do with it. So let's quickly see an example where, as you type, right, you receive type ahead suggestions with inline documentation for over 500 CLI commands, such as Git, yeah, such as NPM, Docker, and of course, AWS, right? And we know what these completions do, where they make a developer become a lot more productive. And in addition to that, you can actually ask it to do task, right, just by writing the command in natural language, and it is able to understand your environment and then give you a command that can help you to carry out this task. So it supports things like item 2, right? So if you're on Mac, or the terminal within VS Code or even JetBrains, so you can download it and get started right away. Okay, so we've looked at, right, where you are able to become a lot more productive by bringing AI into the IDE and the terminal, which from our perspective, this is just the beginning, because lots of developers spend time doing things apart from coding, where if there's a particular task that you have, you need to spend the time getting to understand what the requirements are. You might need to search, you will need to do software design, and then getting to even understand the code bases that you need to modify, right? And so what we've decided to do is to just go beyond coding to provide you solutions that cut across planning, creating, and even operating the solutions that you build, and then even improving them as well, right? So let's even begin with planning. Now, as at today, AWS offers over 200 fully featured services. That's 220 plus, right? For you to build virtually anything you can dream of on AWS. So when you're starting out a new project, there's a certain amount of research that is required, right? And research can take a lot of time, right? So you want to be able to ensure that you are picking the right tools, right? And so even though you might be able to use the internet, what you will be getting will be general guidance that might not be that reliable, and most times lack AWS context about your applications or your environments, and they are not integrated into your workflow, requiring you to switch between things, and then you can potentially lose focus. And that's why also at reInvent, we announced Amazon Q, which is an interactive and personalized Gen AI-powered assistant that is specifically for work and can be tailored to your organization. So Amazon Q can help you get fast, relevant answers to pressing questions. It can help you solve problems, help you generate content, and take actions using the data and expertise that is found in your company's information repositories or your company information code, and maybe even the software systems that you're able to connect to it. And Q has been trained on 17 years of high quality AWS examples to provide accurate, helpful guidance for every step of the process of building on AWS. So it is available everywhere you need it. You can access it from the AWS Management Console, AWS mobile app, the documentation, websites, even within your IDE, and even in communication tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams, and in services like Amazon Code Catalyst. So, what this helps you do is that because it's available where you are, you can use it and still maintain your flow. Yeah, so just a little more about Q, right? So it can harness the power of AWS and, help you gain a lot of speed, right? And then also help you save money as well. Now, Q will help you to troubleshoot. It will help you to build new features and upgrade programming languages on AWS. And like security for AWS is what we say is job zero. So that means it's highest priority. So we have access control and privacy and security built into this. So let's take a look at Amazon Q within your AWS console. So this is in preview. So you can go in now and then take advantage of the capabilities that Q does or provides you. So you can see it as your AWS expert, right? So if you need like the services of a solutions architect that might not be readily available to you, Q can actually serve as that solutions architect to help you answer questions, to provide you guidance on solutions implementation. So you should definitely check it out, right? And one beautiful thing is that you can actually have a conversation with it to, help Q to understand what your requirements are, what your preferences are, what your constraints are. And it can help you in evaluating trade-offs, can help you in exploring best practices, and get answers to specific questions about AWS services. And the beautiful thing is that when it's giving you these answers, it is providing you with links to relevant documentation and source materials. So if you haven't tried it out, I would say definitely try it out. And it's available wherever you work, and this includes your IDE as well. Yeah. So this is part of the Code Whisperer experience today. So you can chat with Amazon Q in your IDE. And instead of having to spend hours exploring old code, you can simply ask Q questions in the chat panel about your code and your architecture and receive a summary explanation, saving you a lot of time. Yeah, so this is just an example, right, of Amazon Q in action within your IDE, where after you have an understanding of the code base, you can go ahead and ask questions. You can go ahead and then ask Q to carry out tasks for you, like in this case, in creating a test. And then after it's done, you can actually click just to add it to your code, right? So, and I think that this is really going to speed up development and help you focus on creative tasks. Okay, so we've looked at how this can help you plan, right? And then the next thing is that this can also help you in creation, right? So Amazon Q is the first tool to meet you in your journey across the full development life cycle. And at reInvent, we introduced new AWS Q capabilities in preview to offload more of the mundane tasks, such as checking off backlog tasks, troubleshooting errors, and generating tests. Now, today's developers, right, you need to deal with a lot of individual steps when you are in the development phase, right? So things that we've already talked about. Now, while Code Whisperer can help you in generating new features code, you still need to create the plan yourself, right? And you would need to know in which files to put in the prompts. You will need to write logic. You will need to create UI elements, integrate with APIs, and even generate tests, right? So while prompting can help you code faster, at AWS, we wanted to do more. And as part of the announcements at reInvent, there is the Amazon Q's feature development capability, right? Where you can automate the entire multi-step process of adding new features to your application, where you can actually go from a natural language prompt to an application feature in minutes. Now, this feature is available in preview in a service called Amazon Code Catalyst and will soon be available in the IDE. Yeah, so it definitely understands your application structure and can automate the multi-step process of adding a new feature on your behalf. So this functionality, right, is available where you work, and it can help you go from an idea to merge-ready code really, really quickly. Okay, so let's go over to the next announcement that happened in reInvent. And because I've been talking for so long, I'll just also like to find out, right, as at this moment, who has used the AWS application composer? Used it at any time? Okay, so I see a question, is Q free? So there's an aspect of Q that is free, like you using Q within your, like the AWS console, the documentation, but there are some aspects of it that is paid, right? So, but the majority of it is free, which you can go ahead and now use today. Yeah, so it is when you now want to plug it into your organization's workflow for you to be able to use the data that you already have stored, then that's where some of the paid bit of it comes in. Okay, so in the interest of time, part of what we announced at reInvent is that AWS Application Composer, which is a visual tool to enable you build serverless applications really, really quickly, which was only available in the AWS Management Console, is now available within VS Code. So there's a lot that you can do with Application Composer within VS Code. So I will just let you see this as an example of how this can work, where right within VS Code, you can actually use Application Composer. And because there is Amazon Q there, you can actually ask questions and then it will provide you answers. There are suggestions that it can give you, and then the code, which is typically the IAC code, which is cloud formation, will be updated as you actually get to work with this. So this is a very, very useful tool that if you build mostly serverless apps, you should take a look at it, and it can offer a lot of productivity. Okay, so moving right along, right? So we've taken a look at how you can plan and then create with Amazon Q. So let's take a look at operating, right? As part of reInvent, we announced that Amazon Q can also help you diagnose and troubleshoot errors. So if you are working within the AWS console, right, and then you encounter an error like the type that is on the screen here, you can simply press the troubleshoot with Amazon Q button, and Q will use its understanding of your workload to diagnose the error and provide personalized step-by-step guidance on how you can resolve it, helping you to get back into production faster. And this can save you lots of time. Okay, so let's take a look at improvement. And so as part of what was announced at reInvent, there's the Amazon code transformation. So what this does is that it gives you the ability to upgrade and transform applications in a fraction of the time it would typically take. So what we started with is Java, where with just a few clicks, Q can perform Java language upgrades, such as upgrading from Java 8 to Java 17. And it can enable you take advantage of the benefits of the latest security and feature enhancements, right? And so this can help you do this really, really fast. Now, coming soon, Q will be able to perform .NET framework to cross-platform .NET upgrades. And I think that's a big deal, right? So what this can do is that it can help you port your applications from Windows to Linux much faster than you can currently do today. Now, this is us as Amazon actually using the tool that we built, where a 5-person Amazon team successfully upgraded 1,000 production applications from Java 8 to Java 17 in just 2 days. Now, it took around 10 minutes on average to upgrade applications, and the longest one took less than 1 hour. I am sure if you've done this before, which I trust that many of us here have, is that this can actually take days for you to actually do. Yeah. And so this, I think, is a game changer and something that you should try out, and keep an eye for more programming languages that will be supported really, really quickly. Okay, so we've talked about Q, which is both useful for developers and then for even when you are building your IAC code as a DevOps engineer. Q is also there to provide you suggestion, guidance, answer your questions around best practices. So if you are not using it yet, you should definitely do. But, I have worked in teams where I have also led DevOps transformation, right? Where if you don't take advantage of the DevOps practices, the principles, and even the tooling that is available to you, there is a tendency that your devs and then those that are responsible for your infrastructure still work in silos, right? So if your developers and teams are to work without silos, you need to ensure that as part of what you make available to them is that the tools are not siloed. So we want every team to be able to use pre-integrated tools that just work as a cohesive solution, getting everything right from day one, right? And so as part of what we announced at reInvent, so Code Catalyst was announced at reInvent of 2022, right? And so what this does is that it actually helps you launch, it helps you to make your development and delivery process a lot more streamlined, right? So your applications on AWS, by bringing together everything that your teams need to plan, to code, to build, to test, to manage, and even deploy their applications. Yeah, so it is a fully integrated developer experience, and it has a couple of features, but for the sake of time, I'd just like to mention the blueprints, which can really get you started on your projects in minutes. Yeah. And then there is also the concept of a dev environment, which are development workstations, right, in the cloud, which are pre-configured with your code, which are pre-configured with dependencies and tools like CLI and connected to the IDE of your choice. So this makes it easy for you to add team members or drop in on any part of the code base without reconfiguring your machine, because those days where where you have team members spend sometimes hours, sometimes 1 or 2 days, ensuring that they have their environment configured. So Code Catalyst can help you with that. Okay, so as of today, this is available. So there is Amazon Q that's available within Code Catalyst. So I will just show you an example how this works, right? Where it handles a lot of the heavy lifting for you, where it can actually just act as a team member to help you plan, to help you build, yes, and then even release your application code. So let's take a quick look at an example. So this is an example to-do app that has been created with one of the Code Catalyst blueprints. And typically on this app, you can actually create a task and mark the task as done. But if you can see, this is done and then it's still where it is. And I want to be able to add a feature to move all the to-do list items to the end of my list, right? So I create an issue, create a description, and then I assign it to Amazon Q. Yeah, and then I can, Q, what Q does is that it reads all of the things in your code to understand what they do. And then based on that intent, it will create an approach for how to build that new functionality. And as the developer, I can start to work back and forth with Q, right? And it provides me an approach for me to review, give my comments. Like in this case, I say don't create a new file, just add the function into, so add it to an existing function. So it gives me an updated approach and I say, good, you can go on. So what it does is that it does the code changes, creates a pull request that I'm able to review. And then typically this is like a senior dev reviewing the tools of a junior dev. You make comments. Amazon Q is able to take that feedback and then provide you an updated code which you can review. And if you are fine with it, you can approve of it and your deployment process kicks in, right? Yeah. And in a few minutes, it's deployed. And right now, if I get to mark a task as done, what it does is that it actually moves this task to the bottom of the list. Yeah. So what you can see here is that I was able to create a new feature in my application by assigning the task to queue and working with queue to review the code. So I invite you to actually try it out for yourself, because everything I've showed you here is available today at codecatalyst.aws. Okay, so this will be like the last segment. And I will not talk so much about it because there are really not so much front-end developers. But I would like to find out, does anyone here know about AWS Amplify? Let me see in the chat. Drop in the chat if you know about Amplify. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, great. So, so for those of you that might not know, so this is a toolbox released by AWS that helps front-end and full stack developers build fully features short apps quickly, right? And then it includes things like hosting, like code libraries that you can take advantage of to really, really speed up your development. Now, the new thing that was introduced in reInvent of 2023 is that there is actually a new code-first developer experience, where as a front-end developer, you can actually use the tools that you are familiar with, which is JavaScript or TypeScript, right? And then because this is code first, right within your IDE, you can take advantage of Amazon QES, you can take advantage of Code Whisperer to ensure that your productivity is enhanced. So this is a new code first experience where developers can focus on code and then not on infrastructure. So if you are not an expert in infrastructure, this can help you to automatically provision cloud resources for use cases like authentication, for use cases like data. And then the beautiful thing is that this is all based on the Amazon Cloud Development Kit, that's CDK. So you can extend it to do, interesting things like machine learning. This can this can actually be part of your CI/CD workflow. So it's really, really cool. So if you're a front-end developer or a full stack one where you really want to quickly get up to speed, or even where you have like a microservice based environment and then you want to be able to build a back end for front end type of architecture, Amplify can actually help you get up to speed quickly with integrations with AWS services as well. So just to wrap up, right? Based on what I've shared, this is just the start of your journey, right? Of our journey to reimagine the developer experience on AWS. So this is still day one, like we say, right? Where we are just scratching the surface of what's possible, right? So we've started by providing you with innovative tools, with innovative abstractions, and opinionated guidance that solve problems for developers and DevOps engineers and organizations across the full development life cycle, helping you improve on your productivity and making it easier to build modern applications on AWS faster. So we are committed to empowering developers like you to accelerate, create, and shape the future. So I'm really excited for what's next, and I hope you are too. And looking forward to what you are able to build with some of these tools. Thank you. So it's time for questions, but before we do that, please, I would like to get your feedback on how useful this was, especially since this is my first time of presenting to your meetup. because there are times when one is trying to say, okay, how deep should I go? How wide should I go? Where I chose to play safe, go like a bit wide. And so I would like to get your feedback, so that next time that I am with you, I will know what to improve upon. Thank you.
All right, great. I think we have questions already. We have someone raising their hands.
Okay.
I saw someone. Yes, Emmanuel Ibok, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very, very excited to be among these, I would say, call it a mini boot camp. I really appreciate you guys. So first of all, the speaker, I don't know his name, what is his name, please? Is it David Umoh or?
Yes, look on the screen. David Umoh. Yeah.
Okay, man, you speak like a white. Someone just called me on phone, was asking me, who is speaking like a white? I was like, no, this is a black guy. I was like, so it was really nice. Dude, I really appreciate it, but I've not made use of these tools on AWS. Though I'm a
Okay.
DevOps engineer
Okay.
and more of a, deploying of code, building infrastructure as a code. So, but I'm not really laying my hands on AWS a lot. So, I would love you to really help me on this. I don't know if you can mentor me on this, please.
Well, I believe that mentorship should be organized from the user group perspective so that it's quite effective. And I believe that that's part of what I'm doing by coming here as well. Yeah, so I am happy to help, but help in a way where it is scalable.
Okay,
Yeah,
so in
do I'm
terms,
not going. Okay,
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
So you can talk. You can talk. You're free to talk.
Manuel, so in terms of mentorship, I and Mr. Akim and the other leaders in the community are actually planning something like that. We haven't launched it yet, but we're planning something like that, kind of like a mentorship program, because we have to be very careful with these things. People can misuse the opportunity, so it has to be a very structured thing. If Mr. David Umoh would allow it, you can message him on LinkedIn. He has his LinkedIn there. But in terms of mentorship, we will come back to that. We need to create a structure. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, sorry. Which of the group or which of the I don't know the group because I got this link from.
Hello, Emmanuel, are you there?
AWS group like that on Cross River State.
So was it my network, or I didn't get what you just said? Hello, Mr. Emmanuel, are you there?
Sorry, I was muting myself. Sorry for that. So I was asking, I got this link from a group chat, so and I joined the meeting. I was so excited about it, so I have to stay on the call. So I was asking, which of the group are you talking about? Because I don't really know the group you're
Okay,
talking
so this
about.
is the AWS Nigeria user group. AWS
I
Nigeria user
think
group on WhatsApp. Are
I,
you a part of
I
that?
think I'm not part of it. Can you just do well to send me the link, please?
We will send the link in the chat very soon. We'll send the link. Thank you. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. We have other questions, please, because we're running out of time. Okay, no questions. Mr. David Umoh has done a lot. He has said a lot about most of the services that were announced. And I believe even I myself would have to go back and watch the recording because I need to start implementing most of these things. I've used Amazon Q, Code Whisperer, but some of the others that I mentioned, I haven't used before. Okay, questions in the chat. Okay, so we would record this and then upload it on YouTube. You can always go back to watch and then implement. Yes, so there's a survey. There's a survey that will be sent out very soon. Give me a minute. We put the survey there. Manuel, before the end of this session, we would put the group link so people can join. Yes, there's a survey. Put the link here. All right, so there's a link there. You can go there and fill the survey and all of that. I would really give a lot of credit to Mr. David Umoh because your slides were very, very, very beautiful slides and very interactive. I mean, if they gave me just your slide, to a very large extent, I would have understood what you were saying. So you did a very good job with that. We'll give you 2 minutes or less to fill in the survey, and then we will go into the Kahoot. Well, it's not Kahoot this time. We have a quiz. Yes, so 3 people would most likely be getting AWS vouchers from there. So while we, okay, do we still have questions? No questions. I'm just going to share my screen. So while you fill the survey, you can also join for the quiz. Give me a minute. Yeah. Great. So if you can see my screen, go to joinmyquiz.com. Can you see my screen? Just to confirm.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, please go to joinmyquiz.com and then you put the code there 185809. We're waiting for you to join. We have 5 questions, 20 seconds each for each question. I think this is a better way to get the fastest finger to things. So we're waiting for you to join. We have Charles, we have David, we have Simon. Join. Also, if you check the chats, my one of the leaders of the group has posted the handles for Twitter, the YouTube, Telegram, and the WhatsApp group, which is the most engaging. So please join the WhatsApp group, Mr. Emmanuel. Yes, Mr. Emmanuel. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people already out of 21. We need more people. Join. Nef is there right now. We need more people to join. How do I join the quiz? Go to join. If you look at the screen I'm sharing now, go to joinmyquiz.com and then put the code there 185809. I'm waiting for you. We need to be at least 10 people before we start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 10 people. We need 10 people. Good. 3 more people, and then we start. Join the quiz. Get the vouchers. Good. Sam. More people join. Good. Should we start? If you haven't joined, indicate and you want to join, or maybe you're having network issues, indicate before I click the start button. Indicates we will be starting. Mr. Promise raised his hand. Mr. Promise, please go ahead, sir. Mr. Promise, I see your hand raised. Is that deliberate?
About the quiz.
Sorry, I didn't get that, sir.
I'm having network issues. I'm about to join the quiz.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So let us know. We have like 1 minute left. Let's try to join. Please just join. Nobody is in. So in the next 1 minute, we would start. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people. Let's see if we can have one more person to join. Just one more person. Promise, have you joined? I can't see you here.
Not yet.
Wow. Promise, it seems we'll start without you.
One more thing, like
You
if
can
you already
start.
won,
I would
if you already won, you might not be able to win again, or just
Yes, if you've won before, you can't win again. Exactly.
so that other people can.
It's done. My God.
Good. This
What a
will
leap.
go to joinmyquiz.com. Go to joinmyquiz.com. Prince Will, I'm putting the code on the screen.
It's a wrap, boo boo. It's a wrap, baby. I'm done. It's a wrap. God.
All right, guys. So
And very well.
we would start now.
Yes, I do. Yes, of course. Ah, God, I mean, even the child were like excellence delivery. Tony said, there's someone overhead. I was it like a white space? I was talking. And I'm like, God is helping me. My delivery skills are improving. And these are things I just learned about from last night to today, and I'm talking about them like I'm a professor. It's the meeting is still on.
Seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Daddy, do you know how many steps I take to my class? This is my class. Students will have first finger. Daddy, make it. If I would make it class.
You love breakfast.
What's it called? There's this thing that is letter is 7. You know,
Okay.
you know the way they are treated that before.
All right, all right. All right, all right. So it seems we already have a winner, I think. It seems we have a winner already. Can you guys hear me? So we have Neff, we have Charles, and Ha. Okay, so okay, because now this name now, the third guy, Nwachukwu. I hope
Yeah,
that's not
that's correct. Nwachukwu.
okay. I thought that was Promise Nwachukwu. That's probably another person. All right, so we have Neff, we have Charles, we have Nwachukwu as our winners for today's session. There should be a place where I can clap now. I can't give a virtual clap here, but you get it. So let's check the answers. If the answers are going to show, this is my first time using this tool. So the first question, we have 9 correct answers and 1 incorrect answer. The answer here is actually MongoDB. I'm sure you must have seen that. The second one, we have 9 correct answers and 1 incorrect. The answer is 17. The third one, we have 8 correct answers, 2 incorrect, and the answer is actually Amazon Code Catalyst. The next one, that's the last one. Can't really see it. Yes, number 4 is we have 5 correct answers, 6 incorrect answers, but the answer is actually code first, right? And then number 5, we have 6 correct answers, 5 incorrect answers, which is kind of like a margin. So I might guess some people were doing guesswork here. The answer is actually false. Okay. All right, so we've come to the end of this quiz. I'm sure Sir Kim must have noted our winners.
So how do we
Okay.
get the winners? I don't know how do we match it with their Zoom info?
How do we match it? Like their email address or something?
Yeah, email or Zoom. I was just thinking if I can just send them directly on Zoom.
Oh, I think that would work. So I think Charles has won before. So Charles, you can't take
Charles
that
has won.
prize. Yes, Charles has won before. So it's Neff first, Nwachukwu, and then
Okay.
Charity, that's charity, right? So those are our winners for today. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And I would like to say thank you everyone for coming to today's for attending today's session, which has been mind-blowing, educative, interactive. What other words can we use? All right, so unfortunately, my friend Richard SN didn't win. In the better luck next time. Better luck next time. So Sir Kim will reach out to those who have won.
So Neff, I just want to get the name, so I make sure that
Neff
I get it
Nwachukwu.
right. Nwachukwu, okay.
Nwachukwu and Charity.
Charity, okay.
Please, if your name is mentioned, just kindly, just say
You can
something
send
in the chat
me,
or send.
yeah, or you can send me direct message. Okay, so
Okay.
I got now Charles, Nwachukwu, okay. Charles already won though.
Yeah, so we're
we're gonna keep Charles.
giving Charles's prize to Charity.
Okay.
Yes, so Richard Essien is saying the teaching is worth it with a virtual clap. Thank you, Richard. Thank you everyone for attending today's session. Okay, Sakim, do we have like a vote of thanks or closing remarks, or are you still messaging?
Hello, I won.
How do we
You
know
won.
you won though?
Wait,
I'm a little bit
Emmanuel
confused though.
Ibok, are you Nwachukwu, or what's your name in the game?
No, Nwachukwu is Vincent Tirole. That's Nwachukwu. That's me.
Okay, great.
My name is Emmanuel Michael Ibok. Emmanuel Ibok.
You didn't win now. Why are you saying you won?
Emmanuel didn't win. He didn't win. He didn't.
Why are you saying you won?
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get the winners. So Neff, I already sent something to Neff. Please confirm. Who else? So Unwachuku, I don't see you on
That's Victor.
Zoom.
That's Vincent.
Oh, that's
Vincent.
Okay,
Victor.
Vincent.
Vincent. I think I
Oh.
sent you a message right now.
Oh, you sent me a message? Okay, good, good.
Yeah, that's Vincent. Vincent is Nwachukwu.
Oh, okay. I see you now. Okay, let me send you a direct message. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Sending it to you right now. I just want to send it now so I don't have to forget. So just bear with me. Okay, so Vincent, I just send you now. And
Yeah.
who's the last one? Who's the last one?
Charity.
Charity. Did Charity send me Charity Francis?
I think so.
Is that the one? Charity Francis?
Charity. If you're Charity Francis, please indicate if you're Charity. You said yes, Charity Francis.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you. All right, I think we are all set. I just sent it to everyone. So everybody should get it. Everybody should get their AWS credit voucher or AWS services.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today's session. I'm sure you learned a lot. Mr. Akim, thank you. Mr. Ewere, David is off the call. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
We will be having another one, the part 2. I think that's next week. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Next week, yes. We will post that shortly. Yes.
Yes, so we'll be having another one next week. You win prize too, so just be ready and come next week. Vote of thanks. We'll start it.
All right. Take care, everyone.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.